thinking about death. We should die and um, what it means to be afraid of death, really. An interesting concept that I came across the other day is that our birth is pure creation of life. It's amazing, our creation of one another, and from there there's a creation of emotions and experiences and what have you. And birth is this amazing thing, and I feel like most people see death as the opposite of birth, and because it is the opposite, what is the opposite of this amazing thing? It's this terrible thing. But I wouldn't tie the emotions that are associated with the action to the definition of the action. So, in that connotation, I do not think that death is inherently a bad thing, but simply the opposite of creation, of being born, right? It's just the opposite. It's just the end to the story. Maybe it isn't, but in our world at least, it's the end to the story. But it's only the opposite in a sense of energy, really. It doesn't have to be in a sense of emotion. Yet we make it the opposite with our senses of emotions. We make it this bad thing, at least in much of Western culture and society. But it doesn't have to be. Like, one way to think about death is that it's this terrible thing because we've lost this person, right? We're not gonna see them in this world. But then you can also think about it as a funeral, as remembering their death, and really a tribute to their life. Because without death, would we ever enjoy life? Or would it really feel pointless? Like, is death is the limited time we have to achieve what we want to achieve, what gives us a sense of purposeness, which gives us a sense of motivation and drive? Because I wonder if we live forever, would our lives just be so dull? Would we be so bored and just so unmotivated to do anything because we know, oh, we've already done that, or we have all the time, we'll be able to do it at some point. We lose our lack of curiosity and motivation to learn. And I don't know if that would inherently be a bad thing, but also doesn't inherently seem to be a good thing, really. If we were to lose that sense, if death is really what makes life. And I think it's also interesting to think about and show that we experience our own dying, but not our own death. And if you do not experience your death, then death is really the death of others and how other people view the emotions that are evoked, and how they experience your death. It's not a perception from yourself, really. Your own dying, sure, but not your own death. It's like, as Alan Watts likes to say, it's like trying to touch your finger with the same finger, or trying to bite your own teeth. It's simply something we can't experience, really. We can't experience what it's like to be dead, assuming we don't go anywhere, right? Really, the last thing or at least the next thing that mainly intrigues me about death is to be scared of death, and whether or not it's a good thing or really a healthy thing, but not even just that, but the sense of empowerment one may be able to achieve when they let go of their of their frights about death, of their worries. For if someone is not worried about death, this thing that is as viewed as the end, the thing that drives our passion, that drives what we do, is the end to all of it. Right? It's the end. And it ties back into many of us will want to live longer than we've already lived, or live longer than we're going to live. And many of us would like to say, give me a year, give me 2 years, add on a couple years. But how long will that go on for? If we had that option to live another year, everybody had that option, right? To live another year. Will we live forever? If people knew that they could live forever, could they ever come to terms with dying? Would anybody ever accept it? Would anybody ever feel content and full enough to accept it? And really, in that case, death can be a miracle. Death is what drives us. For with the absence of death, we lose our meaning. And it's okay to be meaningless. But it's the opposite of being productive, really. Would we stop evolving? And I mean, I think really, for a long time, of course, but especially now, a lot of people have a hard time finding meaning in their life. I mean, I know I feel. I feel meaningless. I feel like life has no point. Like it has no point. And we give up on aspirations because I feel pointless. What is me learning to hit a tennis ball against a wall gonna really make a difference in the rest of the world? And when you start to think like that, what is it gonna make a difference when I leave this world? Right? And you think about, well, then what's the point of doing it? What's the point? Well, really, the point is to have fun, to evoke emotion. But you ask, what's the point? Really, what's the point of doing it? And we don't know. We don't know why we find things fun. Because there's some feelings that are so innate, that are so key, that are beyond our level of comprehension that we can't describe. Like trying to bite your own teeth. We do not know why we find this fun. We can try to give our explanations, and we don't know why we love someone. We like to think we know. And we try to give these explanations, but really, it's a deep, guttural sense that we don't have any understanding of. That we really don't. And we like to think we have the answers to all these big fancy problems, and we like to think we know stuff, and we like to think we aren't insignificant, right? And we aren't completely lost. And we go so far as to lie to ourselves, really, because we'd rather lie to ourselves and believe it on the surface, but not really believe it inside, than face our lack of knowledge and understanding. Yeah. We would rather lie to ourselves than unapologetically face ourselves. And that's scary. I mean, that's like disillusion. You're disillusioning yourself, right? On a conscious level. And that's what religion is. Religion is providing simplistic answers to these big and complicated and tireless problems of the universe and of ourselves that we don't know the answers to, that we don't know how they work. But religion gives us these answers, right? And if you talk to people and you really talk to them, you could see their emotions. Most religious practitioners, they don't really believe what they are practicing, for they hope it is real. They hope that there's this afterlife they will go to that's going to change based on your religion. But they, especially in most religions where there's a God figure, they hope that it is real. They hope, but they do not really believe it. Really deep down, they know it's just monkey business, right? They know it's just monkey business, but they would rather lie to themselves and really trick themselves than face their own lack of comprehension and knowledge for these questions. And isn't that sad? It's so sad. You would rather live in an illusion than face reality. That's so sad. So sad. Because we like to think that we live in a polished world. We all have these views of the world inside of our head, these idealistic properties that they contain. Right? We all have these views, whether it's of the world or of a certain of the perfect someone, right? The perfect person, and you imagine all their perfect attributes. But it's fine, right? It's fine to accept that these things are not perfect, and that it's okay not to know the answers, right? It's okay not to know everything. And it's okay for things not to be perfect, right? whether that be accepting yourself for who you are, right? Either on the outside or, in this case, on the inside, and accepting things you don't know, and really being able to reflect with honesty, being able to look at yourself from the outside, being able to detach your mind and put it in a different body or position, and then from there inspect yourself. And don't inspect yourself with a set of expectations or a set of goals of things you want to find, or beliefs that you want reassured. But instead you simply inspect and to grow and to really experience it. Right? Because when we're able to unapologetically face ourselves, our real selves, and we're able to get rid of all the categories and the social norms and all these labels that we put, and we're able to see past all of that and really look at who we are for all the truths, for the things we realized, for the things we didn't realize about ourselves, and we can look at that and we can see it, and not necessarily see it as good or bad or whatnot, but things about ourselves. And maybe it's things we want to change, and maybe it's not. But just in that process, just in that simple process, it's simple, but it's hard. It's very hard to do, but just in that, you get so much growth. Because we lie to ourselves, and when we lie to ourselves, we prevent our growth, right? That's not what we want. Nobody wants to be stagnant. We're creatures of growth, we're creatures of change and evolution. That's how we've gotten as far as we have. We cannot be stagnant. It goes against every fiber and sinew of meat in our body. Really. Yeah. But that all ties kind of back into death, and to be worried about death, right? And why we disillusion ourselves. So that also ties back into religion. We disillusion ourselves. We are so scared of this thing called death that is completely natural, really, but we are so scared of it that we create lies around it. And we believe in Christianity, we believe in religions that give us the answers to these things that we're scared of and that we don't understand, because we're always scared of the unknown. We're scared of what we understand. We find comfort in having the answers. And that's what religion does. And we're so scared of death, so scared at the end of it, that we believe the lies, even if really we know they're just lies. But that's how scared of it we are. So, but if someone is able to let go of that fear of death, and face themselves unapologetically, accept the situation, right? Instead of being a pessimist or an optimist, you're a realist, right? Why come in with set expectations? It's too naive. You must simply accept it as it is. See it fully and truthfully. Not to come in with a negative view or an over happy view, right? Or an over negative view, but to come into it truthfully and face it, not as the truth as good or bad, but simply as truths. And that's how you're gonna come to understand them, right? So you're able to get rid of that fear of death. And if death is the hardest thing, really, I think, to get your fear, to get rid of your fear of, I'd say it's the hardest thing. For why do we fear all other things? Why does an anxious person fear talking to people in public? Well, they fear social embarrassment. And why do they fear social embarrassment? And you keep doing that. And you keep boiling down what we fear inside of us, really. And it all ties back to our time that we have here. Really, at its roots, it ties back to our time and our lives and what we're going to accomplish. If you really, really peel back the layers enough, it's what it ties back into. That's the final layer. And that's the mystery of life. Right? What's gonna happen? It's what we're most afraid of. For we would not have fears if it were not for death. If we were to live forever, we knew that all things would sooner or later come to an end. All things will change if we are here forever. Because everything changes. Nothing can stay the same forever, which is why this is a hypothetical situation. Everything changes. So with that knowledge of knowing that even in the worst possible times, when we feel like life has no meaning, if we knew that we were to live together forever, right? If we knew we were able to live forever, I don't think we would fear those. I don't think so. I really don't. I don't. Because we fear what we don't know. We fear these emotions that we don't know. And we fear the things that we haven't accepted. So, then with that, if you think about someone who is able to accept that, who's able to accept it at face value for what it is, for what it is going to be, well then, once they really do that, once they truly do that, and not just saying it, and not just thinking it, but acting it, and believing it with every atom in your body. Once you do that, well then you essentially become immortal, right? You experience the emotions and you experience the things that someone who is living immortally would know and would experience. Because just as they are not afraid of death, and because they are not afraid of death, they are not afraid of anything. They know things will change, but they've accepted it, and that's okay. And that first step, well, for them it was easier, because they didn't have to accept too much, right? They just have immortal life. But if you can do that, if you can accept it, the hardest thing to accept, then it opens up so many doors, and it gives you this sense of weightlessness, that no longer is there a need to worry about anything. Why should you worry? Why should you give it your time? It will pass, it will change, right? For if we are not worried about the dead, there is no reason to worry, because, like I said earlier, at death. Death is the center of the onion when you peel back all the layers of why we are afraid and why we worry about things in life. Death is at that core. So you smash the core. You smash the core. And the rest of the onion has no structure without the core. So the onion falls apart. The onion collapses. And in this case, the onion is the worry. And without the onion, you're able to not worry. And you're able to experience. You're able to have this profound joy. And it's amazing. It's really amazing. Yeah. So those are some of my